Hey everybody, N6TLU here in the shop working on a Johnson Ranger. This Ranger was just acquired at the Chelsea Hamfest by a friend of mine, and he got it dirt cheap. So I thought, oh boy, I bet you this thing is full of surprises. Well, guess what? I fired it up and it does transmit and modulate. But the problem with it is this dial does not want to move. So when you have a Ranger or a Valiant that has this situation, do not force it. What's going on is the vernier is locked up. It's all gummed up. So if you try to force it, you're just going to tear the little vernier drive system to pieces. The best thing to do is get in there, clean that vernier, re-lube it, put it back in, and she'll operate just as good as she did new. Unfortunately, the only way to get to it is to pull the whole face off the radio. So once I get the face off, we'll inspect it and see if that's indeed what the problem is. Alright, so normally when you get ready to pull the face, you have to decouple the VFO. Johnson put an access hole here so you could get a screwdriver up in there, and there's 2 set screws, but unfortunately, since I cannot turn the VFO, I can only get to 1 set screw. So I can't use that option. I'm going to have to pull the face, and there's a nut behind the vernier that I'm going to have to pull off, and you got to be really careful because that vernier rocks. There is a insulator up here that can crack, and then you're hosed because it was a specialized part that Johnson had made. Alright, here it is, guys. I've got all the nuts removed, so the face wants to come off. The only thing holding it right now is the vernier. So you can get a wrench on it here, but you have to support the vernier behind it or it'll try to spin. So I use a couple wrenches. Get one back here. Get a hold of that housing. All kinds of stuff in my way, of course, so we'll get her. Alright, got a hold. Now, I need to break this nut free. I'll be careful that the nut doesn't hit this painted area because that is behind the dial. So if you scrape it, you'll always see it. Alright. Oh yeah, ooh, that was kind of quick, but we're okay. So the face is off. And there's that vernier. Now, as I stated, I couldn't get to the set screws. I'm still not going to be able to get to the set screws. I got to pull this VFO housing out of here. So I'm going to take out all the nuts and this will lift right up. Luckily, this one will. See this slot that goes all the way down? Some of the earlier Johnsons didn't have that. They just had a hole. So you couldn't even pull this off. They got wise. So this one's going to be a little bit easier for maintenance. So to get that VFO cover off, there's normally a shield that sits here that needs to come off, and then you're going to see that there's 8 of these nuts. 2 of them are back here, 2 of them are up here. They're not really easily accessible, but you have to remove all those, and then the lock washers like to stay stuck in there. So what I do is just lay them back down, work the cover, let the lock washers fall. Alright, I'm ready to lift the cover. As I stated before, the little insulator that holds this vernier is very fragile, and right now this guy's hanging out here like a diving board. So you got to be really cautious. You don't want to hit it. This thing, of course, since it's been on there for years, is going to fight me during this process, but it is lifting. But you gotta do everything you can to protect this guy until it can be pulled. The other thing I discovered, I'll show you here in a minute, is normally there's an access panel over here. And it appears as though somebody in the past either put pop rivets from the inside or screws from the inside, so I cannot remove the side panel. So they've really made this thing a joy for me to work on. I've got some interference back here. I believe it's just those lock washers that I was telling you about that are still in place. They're kind of jamming this thing up a little bit from coming up, but she'll come up really close. I just don't want to break this, especially with all you watching. That would be super embarrassing. Alright, now I'm going to have to investigate what is holding up the process. Everything's moving, but something is caught. Alright, I have still not figured out why this cage won't come off. I believe it goes back to what I was telling you about with the person that put some little pop rivets or something inside. And I think, and yes, I'm correct, there's a little insulator like a diving board in here, and they are hitting it. And that's why it won't come up. And yeah, they're like little pop rivets on the inside. I've never seen this before, guys. I mean, it's supposed to be an access panel, but guess what? You don't have any access. It's moving, but slowly. And I see little gouge marks on the other side where it looks like something had been dragging in the past, but there's nothing over there. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe this VFO cover, there she goes, came from another transmitter, because this is not normal, and there's definitely signs of a struggle in the past with them trying to get this off. Wow, she is really tight. There she goes. Alright, well there it is. Now here's what I'm talking about. Take a look at the side cover, which is not a cover, and you can see some witness marks where it looks like somebody ground off the screws, and then on the inside there's pop rivets. Very strange. Alright, so now I have full access to the VFO, and this vernier I believe is locked up. We'll see if the tuning cat turns, and it does. So it is the vernier. Now I can get to these set screws. Wow, they are really tight. Alright, I don't think this has ever been out, so it's time to bring in a little heavy duty screwdriver. Make sure I don't harpoon myself. There it is. Vernier is removed. So I've showed this in previous videos, taking this apart, cleaning and lubing it. First step is to take this whole vernier and just drop it in a bowl of lacquer thinner so that this varnish they put in here in the threads can break away, and then I can take her apart and clean it. The other thing is under here is Mr. Chernobyl resistor. Turn this so you can see it. Right there is the 18K carbon resistor. That's the one that you hear about that overheats and burns up the VFO compartment. This one looks good, but we're definitely going to change it. So the vernier is bathing in lacquer thinner, and while that is soaking, I'm going to get in here and carve out that 18K resistor, clean the switch in here, and verify everything else in the VFO looks good. I've got the vernier assembly taken apart. It's ready to be re-lubed. All the old grease is out of it, as you can see from the lacquer thinner. So I like to use a Phonolube or a white lithium grease. Just be cautious when you put these together. There's a little tapered surface down there, and there's another taper on this surface, and those balls go in between them. If you get those flipped, you're going to be tearing your vernier back apart. Alright, I'm going to get it lubed and get this VFO back together. Alright, I was not able to get the pop rivets out of the other cage without damaging it, so I do have another VFO cage with the adjusters from another Ranger, and that's going to go in the place of the other one. Alright, I've got the VFO cage installed, and now is the perfect time to install push to talk. I have full access to the function switch, so it's time to put in the D-Lab PTT system. I got the front panel reinstalled. VFO tunes like butter now after cleaning and lubing the vernier, and I've installed the D-Lab K1 push to talk module. Now it's time to move underneath and do some power supply work. Alright, here's the things in the power supply that needs to be addressed. Somebody updated the power cord to a 3-prong grounded type, and when they did that, they popped this fuse holder in here on the chassis, and you can see there's been some fireworks going on. I'm not a fan of the grounded cords on these Rangers with an internal fuse. I'd rather keep them stock with the dual 5-amp fuses in the original Johnson plug. That's what we're going to install. And the capacitors are 100 microfarad, 450 volt, wired in series with balancing resistors. It's a good idea to replace the caps, but you need to be closer to the original value. The 5R4 rectifier tube was not designed to handle 50 microfarads of capacitance. That's what we have here. The original cap was 10 microfarads at 700 volts. We're going to install something a little closer to that value and protect the high voltage power supply. I've cleaned up the power supply, installed one of the original Johnson type power cords with the built-in fuses. New filter caps are installed. I simply glued these in place on top of the choke. I removed those standoffs and run a ground direct to chassis. Okay, I got the Ranger all reassembled and it's ready for the initial test. This is one good looking Ranger, guys. I can't believe the price that my buddy Scott got this for at the Hamfest. He stole it, and now the thing is working as good as it looks. So I'll get in closer and you can see the tune-up process, and we'll check the modulation. Alright, so we'll initially test it into a dummy load, and then I'll take it out into the ham shack and we'll listen to this thing on my NC300. So here is a grid current, nice and smooth. We're going to go to plate, and remember we've got push to talk, so now I can key it with the old microphonium. Here we go. Dip the plate, get a little over 40 watts. Now we'll go to modulation. There's an idle current, a little over 50 mils. Hello, LO12, LO1, 3, 4. I can hear myself coming out of those 6L6s. So this thing's going to sound glorious on the air. Alright, here is on the air audio test for the Ranger. I have a vertical outside which the Ranger is transmitting into. We're on 7.290 megahertz, monitoring on a national 300 receiver. Hello 1 2. Hello 1 2 3 4. Test Ranger from N6TLU. Alright, here's another test. I've got the mic gain turned up a little bit more. I tried to reel back my RF gain so I can get that feedback, but let's see what she sounds like with a little more audio. Hello 1 2. Hello 1 2 3 4 and 6 TLU. Oh yeah. That's one good sounding Ranger and a great looking Ranger.